This is Dr. Don, and today we're going to be talking about compression mounting with the TerraPress TP7500S. This is a hydraulic mounting press. But let me begin first with the reason why you would compression mount in the first place. There are basically two types of mounting operations. One is compression mounting using heat and pressure. The second is castable mounting. Some people call it cold mounting, but the resins do get somewhat hot, so it's not really cold. That's why I call it castable mounting. But anyway, let's talk about compression mounting. Compression mounting has the advantage that you're applying both pressure and temperature to the specimen mounting compound. This actually allows the sample to have better wetting of the mounting material around the sample so that you get better edge retention. And you also have resins that have quite a few different properties too. You have clear mounting resins such as a transacrylic. This is actually a thermoplastic. Most of the resins are actually called thermosets. These are the phenolics, the epoxies, the diphthalate, the conductive mounting compounds. So anyway, it depends on what you're trying to mount and the selection of the material that you're going to use. So today we're going to show you a demo of a couple of different mounting compounds. The TP7500S compression mounting press is shown here. One of the features that we have with this particular mounting press is that this is our heater block here, and we actually can put different sizes in here. You can do a 2-inch mount with just the heater block itself. Otherwise, you can do an 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches, an inch, and these essentially just slide into the heater here, and then there's a locking set screws that set it down here. And we have these available in 1 inch, 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches molds, and then of course 2-inch here. But we can also do 30 millimeter and 40 millimeter for the metric side of the world. Now we also have the rams here. So this is the lower ram. So this would fit down in here first, and this actually screws onto the top of the the cylinder. We also have a spacer, so if you want to do multiple mounts. The one I'm showing here has actually got a chamfered edge on here. I like this because it actually puts a little taper on the side of the mount so that you don't have to go in and taper it with a piece of grinding paper. It just allows the abrasive when you're grinding to act a little bit more efficiently. But we do have these either completely flat or chamfered. The TerraPress 7500S has a touchscreen control, which is fairly easy to use. After pressing the start button, it comes to a menu that is our operating menu. Here we have our operating pressure, the temperatures that we're going to heat it to, the holding time at temperature, and then we have cooling. Now, cooling can go through a number of different phases here, or different options. One is you can cool to a certain temperature. The other is cooling to for a certain amount of time. In particular, if you have a laboratory that has a wide variety or wide range in temperature between, say, the winter and the summer, you may want to go more with temperature than with time. Time is great, but if you have a wide swing, you're going to get some different results. We also have low and high cooling as well, so there's quite a few different options as far as the cooling goes. Now, just to show you what we can do here, if we push on the pressure here, we can enter a pressure. Temperature, let's say 120, and then time, let's say we want to go 3 minutes. Cooling temperature, let's say 40 degrees. So that's how you would do the programming from the main screen. We also have a preset number of programs as well, and so they're listed here. And soft start, let me talk a little bit about what soft start is. Soft start allows you to to have a condition for a certain amount of time where you can, say, preheat the sample. This is very critical, especially if you're working with large mounts using the transacrylic or the transparent plastic. We can also do customized, and I got a couple in here already. You see that we've got some preloading here of the soft start. Let's go ahead and start with the transacrylic. Let's go ahead and take that off. So we just select that, load the selected. Then we go back to the menu, and it has all the parameters for doing the transacrylic listed in this particular screen. Let's work with the mounting press now. It's one of the more difficult materials to actually mount is our thermoplastics. Ours is what we call transacrylic. Now, thermoplastic is a little bit different than the other resins in that this is actually molds by melting, and so it essentially melts around the sample, but it forms nice, clear, real crystal clear type of mounts so that you can actually see when you're polishing and grinding where you're at on your sample. But one of the problems or one of the challenges with mounting with transacrylic is that if you heat it up too fast or you don't heat it up enough, you actually get what's called a cotton ball. And so it looks like you've actually mounted a cotton ball inside your mount. And this is because the plastic starts to melt around the edges and then entraps the gases. Now, some people in the past have thought that all you have to do is raise the temperature and that the viscosity will go down, you get the air bubbles out. I mean, it works a little bit, but doesn't always work very well. So the best thing that we've seen is, if you're working with these materials, is actually to bring the plastic up to just below its melting temperature, which is about 90 to 100 degrees Celsius, and let it hold there so that the air can work its way out. So with a preload, pre-step, you preheat it and then you cure it at a higher temperature. But we find that going to 110, 120 degrees Celsius maximum is usually good enough for working with these materials. So let's go ahead and mount one on our mounting press here. So let me do a demonstration of mounting with a transacrylic. So let's go ahead and mount this nut. So I'll put it on our lower ram here. Let's go ahead and lower the ram. And what I like to do is use a funnel. It just is a little bit neater so that you don't get a bunch of powder all over the place. So just let that go all the way down to the bottom. And then we usually have a scoop that we provide with the compression mounting. This is 30 cc, so I'll go ahead and add that to the chamber there. And then here's our upper ram here. I usually check to make sure there's no flash buildup on this. Maybe clean that a little bit. And then just slide this down. And then basically turn it. And there's, on the top here, you can see there's a lock and then an unlock. So you want to make sure that you get this into the lock position before you start it. Otherwise, you're going to have a mess with your powder all over the place. So this is the screen that we have set up for doing the transacrylic. If we wanted to go back and change this, you see we got some customized screens here, or customized procedures. This one shows that we have the soft start, which is our preload. I'm going to turn that off for this particular sample because it's a fairly small sample. When you get the larger mounts, you probably would want to use this, especially for the transacrylic and the any kind of a clear mounting compound. So let's go ahead and load this. Go back to the menu. I'm actually going to reduce this to 110 versus 120. So the parameters are all set here, and let's go ahead and just start this. And it says, do you want to start? Hit yes. And you hear the hydraulic ram lifting up the lower ram, and it will now start to heat up the assembly. So we're on the heating step here right now. So you see it's just starting here. So heating is going to be in the color of red, holding is going to be green, cooling of course is going to be blue. So we'll let this run and we'll come back in a minute. So to remove the sample, let's make sure that it's in the unlock position and then go ahead and hit the up button. And this will lift the lower ram and press the sample out. And there's our transacrylic with our mounted nut. To summarize what we were working on today, we were focusing on compression mounting. And compression mounting, in particular, the TerraPress TP7500S, which is a hydraulic mounting press. We also offer a pneumatic mounting press, which is the TP7100. The TP7100 is a little bit more economical, but of course it is limited in force because of the air pressure that's coming in. Generally, hydraulic presses can generate a little bit more force. We also went over some of the different mounting compounds. The sample that we did today was using a transacrylic, which can be a pretty tricky mounting material. We also talked about phenolics and edge retention materials such as dithylphthalate and epoxies, conductive mounting for electronic components. And so there's a lot of variety and a lot of different ways that you can go about mounting your samples, but in compression mounting in general provides flatter surfaces, better edge retention, and is a great way to start before you go off to the next step, which is your grinding and polishing step.